welcome to this year's annual State of the County, City, and Town, something we began several years ago with our partners at all three levels of local government. Each prior to that had independently at some place in time, done a presentation of the state of their local government. And it seemed it would be appropriate and positive to bring the three together and have them do it together in one place at one time, in part to kind of highlight and look for synergies and connections between the challenges and the opportunities and the plans of all three levels of government. This worked out well over the last several years, and we're doing it virtually this year, and we're not feeding you breakfast. We'll get back to that next year, but we're really happy to still be able to do this and to do it virtually. The state of the chamber, I'll start with, is we are 100% engaged for you. We have been every day since mid-March, and will continue to be until we come out the other end of this. Certainly the continuing pandemic, I'm sure, will have an impact on the thinking and plans of our county, our town, and our city, and we'll probably hear some references to that. But also the finances, the projects, the forward-looking sorts of things that all three of our leaders always bring to this annual presentation. It's my pleasure at this point to acknowledge each of our two sponsors who are making this morning's program possible. We thank them for their generous support of this program and of the chamber in general. First up, for some welcoming remarks, I'm happy to call upon Brian Gladwin, Vice President and Regional Lending Manager of NBT Bank. And let me say up front, words of thank you on behalf of the entire business community to NBT and to all of our member banks and all of their teams for the incredible work they've done under a great challenge of kind of a tidal wave of demand for assistance and advice and guidance from the small business community in particular through these months, and now once again with the new PP program. We know that's been challenging to work through, very demanding, huge volumes, and everybody wanting to be next. We thank you.
Yep. Did Gary tune out? We lost it.
Through this process. With that, Brian Gladwin.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. As Gary mentioned, I do commercial lending for NBT. NBT Bank is a regional bank with locations in New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Maine, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. We're headquartered in Norwich, New York, and we have offices throughout the North Country. NBT is a full-service bank providing services ranging from commercial lending to consumer lending to 401ks to investments to PPP loans. NBT Bank is very pleased to be a sponsor of today's Plattsburgh North Country State of the County, City, and Town virtual forum. Our community is very fortunate, and some might say blessed, to have the leadership we have when looking at the Plattsburgh North Country Chamber of Commerce, the Clinton County, the City of Plattsburgh, and the Town of Plattsburgh. All of these leaders and their teams have helped us navigate a pandemic and will help us move forward in 2021, a year of hope for better things. We believe that the North Country is well positioned for future success. We look forward to being part of the success, and we look forward to the continued benefit of strong leadership that we will hear from today. Thank you again to the Plattsburgh North Country Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity and for putting this virtual forum together for the benefit of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Our thanks once again to NBT Bank. Our thanks as well to our other sponsor this morning for continuing to support this event and the work of the Chamber, our friends at Barton Lagaitis. With us is John Benson, Senior Vice President for Business Development. John?
Good morning, everybody. It's really great to see everybody. I wish we could see everybody in person at the big breakfast like we do every year, but we're going to hope for next year. As you know, Barton Lagaitis is a multidisciplinary consulting firm that provides technical solutions to both municipal government and private business. And we, even through 2020 with everything that came, we still were able to have a great year, and a lot of it's in part to many of the people that are joining the call today. So I appreciate that, appreciate all the business, and I look forward to seeing everybody in person real soon.
Thank you, John, and thanks again to our friends at Barton Lagaitis for your support of the Chamber and for the great work we know you do on projects across the North Country. Maybe with a new infrastructure bill coming out of Congress later this year, maybe we'll see a whole lot more work for you and all of your partners and colleagues across the region. We certainly hope so. I want to acknowledge just a few of the folks who are on the program, just to acknowledge that they're part of our audience here this morning. From the Chamber of Commerce, our Chair, Bill Myers, and our Chair of Government Affairs, Alexandra Berry. Our thanks to both of them for their leadership. I want to acknowledge and welcome Assemblyman Billy Jones, who we know is listening in, always has a deep and active interest in everything I know we'll be talking about this morning. I know will be things that Billy has an interest in, and we'll be looking for ways to be of further support, as he's always looking for ways to be of further support to our communities. And then I also want to acknowledge Wendell Hughes, a member of the Clinton County Legislature, who I know is in the audience this morning. With that, we'll get right to the three presentations, and we'll start with the state of Clinton County. With us is the chair of the Clinton County Legislature, Mark Henry. Mark?
Thank you, Gary, and good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Clinton County Legislature, I would like to thank the Chamber for once again hosting the annual State of the County, Town, and City Forum. I know that these are usually done in person, but whether in person or in this virtual format, I'm very glad to be here today to participate in this important conversation. Before beginning, I'd like to point out a couple of things. First, last year, I included only one slide in my presentation, and I was gently criticized for that. Taking this criticism to heart, this year I cut back even more, and I won't be using any slides during this presentation. If you're looking for them, they won't be there. I should also add that after my rosy presentation during last year's State of the County remarks, I am truly amazed, Gary, that you've invited me back to speak at this year's program. I don't think it will be difficult for any of us to cast our minds back to this time last year and realize how much the world, the country, and our area has changed since then. We cannot talk about the state of Clinton County without first addressing the loss and pain that the pandemic has caused to not just our residents, but across the nation and the world. When the pandemic struck in March, it brought true tragedy to our area. Lives were lost and are still being lost across our state and here in our region. We mourn for those who were taken from us. The family members, friends, and neighbors who died from this pandemic will remain in our hearts. I know that everyone here and across our county sends our deepest heartfelt condolences to those who lost loved ones. At the very beginning of this pandemic, Clinton County faced this health crisis head on and moved swiftly to protect the public health. Clinton County immediately activated its ICS team to oversee the county's response to the pandemic. The ICS team commanders at that time were Health Department Director John Canosa, Director of Emergency Services Eric Day, Sheriff Dave Favreau, and I. Michael Cashman, Town Supervisor of Plattsburgh, was also a member of this team. The ICS team is designed to allow for a cooperative response by multiple agencies within and outside of government to organize and coordinate a response to any disaster, to ensure resources are used without duplication of effort or waste, and without compromising the decision-making ability of local authorities. The ICS team also oversaw and coordinated the distribution of personal protective equipment, hand sanitizer to thousands of people, businesses, faith-based organizations, and medical professionals. The Clinton County Department of Health, the Clinton County Health Department, with help from the Sheriff's Department and Clinton Community College, set up a contact tracing team to contact and isolate or quarantine anyone who may have been exposed to the virus. We believe that this was crucial in helping to slow the spread and flatten the curve in the early days of the pandemic. Testing is also an important part of our pandemic response as well. Today, we conducted approximately 104,000 tests here in Clinton County. Many of those via the drive-through testing facility operated by CVPH and supported by the county and New York State. We established a local county work group, which met every week to coordinate a local response to the pandemic and to also work on sensible methods to slowly and safely open our schools, colleges, and business. This local group consisted of Plattsburgh Town Supervisor Mike Cashman, the former mayor of Plattsburgh, Colin Reed, the Clinton County Health Department, Gary Douglas of the Chamber, local business leaders Lola Miller from Nova Bus and Peter Kritsiotis from Aleka's Restaurant, Dr. Wouter Rietzema of CVPH, Dr. Mark Davey of CVES, and Clinton Community College President Ray D. Pasquale, SUNY Plattsburgh President Dr. Agnetti, and myself. I would like to thank all of the participants in this work group for their time and dedication to helping the North Country during a very tough time. Regular public outreach programs were established to ensure that Clinton County residents were as informed as possible to the extent of the virus, its impact on our county, and the appropriate ways to minimize the risk. As chairman of the legislature, I was also asked to join the governor's North Country Regional Control Room. The control room consists of representatives from 7 North Country counties of Jefferson, Lewis, St. Lawrence, Franklin, Hamilton, Essex, and Clinton County. The control room continues to monitor infection rates, hospital and ICU admissions, looks for hot spots and microclusters where the virus may be spreading rapidly. Through the New York State Association of Counties, we joined with every county in the state on daily phone conference calls for many weeks. These conference calls joined us with state leaders, federal representatives, and medical experts to share plans, ideas, and spotlight issues that were happening in other counties across the state and are relevant to our area. They also offer a venue for counties to discuss the governor's executive orders and their impact on both government and business. These associations of county calls continue on a weekly basis to this day. There are so many people that played and continue to play a crucial role in our response to the pandemic. I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank some of them. If we were meeting in person, I would ask them to stand. But as we are virtual here today, I will just introduce them. Clinton County Health Director John Canosa, Office of Emergency Services Director Eric Day, Sheriff Dave Fabro, and County Administrator Michael Zerlo for their outstanding work that they have done and continue to do to keep this county as safe as possible during the pandemic. I'd also like to mention Jim Cleveland and his buildings and grounds staff, who work so hard to adapt to the many rules and regulations in order to keep the county open and running. I know too that they want to ensure that we recognize the huge role that their staff played in all of this. We know that nothing gets done without great people all working together. I would especially like to recognize the crucial role that our county isolation and quarantine team played. They work long, hard hours, ensuring that the virus is contained as much as possible. Very early on, the North Country Chamber of Commerce proved to be a leader in helping not just businesses and their employees, but all of us to navigate through the various opening phases in what would be required for businesses to open safely. The Chamber provided training webinars to hundreds, if not thousands of people on many COVID-related subjects. The Chamber's Daily Dose continues to disseminate important information, and as always, Gary and the Chamber provided strong leadership and advocacy on behalf of the entire region. Our state and federal representatives are not absent during this fight either. Assemblyman Billy Jones, former Senator Betty Little, Senator Dan Steck, and Congresswoman Elise Stefanik were and are with us every step of the way and fight to ensure that this region is strongly represented and receives the assistance that is needed. In addition to these critical ongoing health concerns, the pandemic also devastated our national, state, and regional economy. It damaged labor markets, put tremendous stress on our healthcare systems, closed businesses, schools, community colleges, and universities. In January of 2020, our economy, by almost any measure, was red hot and had been for quite some time previous to that. Largely because of these impressive economic numbers and on the strength of our local successes, I stood before you this time last year and predicted that 2020 could very well be a banner year for our county and our region. Then the pandemic struck in March. Economically, it hurt Clinton County very badly. We were at that time predicting a potential 20% reduction in sales tax revenue, nearly $8 million to this county alone. While responding to the grave healthcare crisis, Clinton County simultaneously began to immediately assess what we could do to mitigate the wholesale devastation of the economy, while at the same time advocating for a way to open businesses safely, to restart the economy, and we swiftly moved to make necessary budget adjustments. In response to a potential fiscal catastrophe, Clinton County instituted 2 furlough programs, which generated $1 million in savings. We did not fill employee positions, with the exception of critical backfills, which saved $2.3 million. We also tightened spending by limiting purchasing, instituted a policy of no travel, and delayed capital projects, resulting in nearly $4.5 million in operational savings. These actions, coupled with the fact that sales tax receipts were higher than anticipated, allowed us to ameliorate this fiscal crisis. And all of that leads us here into 2021 and the state of the county. You may have seen the many media reports regarding the actions that were taken by the legislature. But we were not in this alone. The legislature also had the support of its department heads and our employees. They understood the reality of the situation and stepped up. Some of the actions the legislature initiated were to not fund 49 positions, reduced overall operating expenses by $8.4 million, negotiated with our health insurance broker to obtain a 0% increase to rates for 2021, and we built a spending plan, assuming a continued 20% reduction in state funding. In January of last year, our 2020 county budget was at $174 million, and our tax rate was at $5.90. In preparing the 2021 budget, the legislature made difficult but necessary decisions. Working with our county administrator, Mike Zerlo, and his team, along with our employees, together, we developed and adopted a budget that reflects the realities of the situation we are in. The legislature recently adopted a 2021 budget of $165 million, a decrease of nearly $9 million, with an associated tax rate of $5.55. Even with these actions, we will face many challenges this year, and we fully expect them to extend into 2022. County budgets are dependent on 3 basic revenue streams: sales tax, property tax, and revenues from state and federal governments. As we all know, the state budget was devastated. Currently, the state is forced to close a $10 billion budget gap over the next couple of budget cycles. While the state has closed the budget gap for the current year, it is going to be difficult for counties because we still don't know what kind of budget we will see from New York State in 2022. There are really 2 budget scenarios, which is why we continue to advocate for direct, flexible local aid from the federal government. There is one budget scenario in which New York State gets $6 billion from the federal government, and there is another one in which New York State gets $15 billion from the federal government over the next 2 state fiscal years. Depending on which of these 2 scenarios we see, it will have a large impact on our county government's budget and our ability to deliver critically needed services to our residents. County government is a form of government that touches everyone's life. Rich or poor, cradle to grave, good citizen or troubled citizen, we impact everyone's life through the delivery of critical services to our residents. Most of these services are dependent upon federal and state revenues. We recognize that this direct, flexible state and local aid package is a hot button political issue and it's the topic of national debate. But I can tell you that what is decided in the federal government and at the state level will directly affect how much pain we will feel at the county level. When the state suffers, the county suffers. Direct, flexible local aid is very important to counties and cannot be overstressed. I would like to thank Senators Schumer and Gillibrand for their untiring efforts on this important issue. The legislature will be focusing on several important issues that will face our county and our region throughout 2021. You may have noted, as I did this morning, that many of those goals line up exactly with the business survey that was released this morning by the Chamber of Commerce. First and foremost, we must continue to focus on the pandemic and ramping up of vaccine distribution. This is the key to our region's success. We must work to bring tourism back to levels even higher than before the pandemic, and to do what we must to get our border open as quickly and as safely as possible. The airport is an extremely critical area of concern for us. With the border closed, passenger levels have dropped precipitously. We use the passenger facility charge and the parking fees to pay off the debt service on the terminal. It is vitally important that passenger service is restored as quickly as possible. It is no secret that the border is critical to the success of the airport. Therefore, we must continue to advocate for continued conversations on the safe reopening of the border. We are fortunate in that respect, in that we have three great allies in this. Gary Douglas in the Chamber of Commerce, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who is the co-chair of the Congressional Northern Border Caucus, and Assemblyman Billy Jones, who is co-chair of the Council of State Governments East Canada U.S. Relations Committee. We did get a piece of good news. You may have read this morning in the paper that we received a $1.4 million grant from the CARES Act. That will be very welcome for our operations at the airport. Our community college, in particular, has suffered disproportionately these last few years. We cannot let the state forget the important role our community colleges play in the local economy, and we must fund it accordingly. One critical area is that the FTE rate remains the same as enrollment decreases. We must work with our state partners to increase FTE aid. The executive and the legislature needs to recognize the important role that community colleges play in the local economy and fund it accordingly. We want to work with all of our public and private partners to recharge the economy. We must make sure that businesses and their employees are supported. We will look to continue to foster economic development through a strong IDA. We will continue to work to keep taxes low and stable. Broadband and cell phone services must be expanded so all can participate. In continuation of infrastructure development that we partnered with the TDC and the Town of Plattsburgh at the former Clinton County Airport, which I hope will soon have a new name. We cannot continue to call this important area the former Clinton County Airport. Very soon, I intend to work with the county legislature to develop a process whereby we can come up with a new name in 2021 that will brand this industrial park to our region. We want to do this very quickly because it's my understanding that there is a grassroots movement to name this industrial park after me. Hopefully, we can cut them off at the pass before this happens. I will leave you with it. The state of Clinton County is resilient, it is hopeful, and it is optimistic. We have been rocked by an unseen enemy. The virus is still with us and will be for some time to come, but we are fighting back. With a vaccine, we are gaining every day. I believe that we are on the road to success. It may be a very bumpy road, but we are going to get there. While I may not be quite as optimistic as last year's predictions, I believe that we are going to come out of 2021 moving in a positive direction, and that the pent-up economy will open strongly. We will look forward to having our children back in schools, our colleges and universities open, the border open, and the restoration of tourism with our restaurants and hotels full. It must be said that when all of these things come to pass, we will still remember and mourn for those lives that were lost to this insidious virus during this terrible time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Very inspiring, very informative, and as always, thank you on behalf of the Chamber for the exceptional working relationship, partnership between Clinton County government and the business community through the Chamber of Commerce here. I always remark annually in our presentations to the county that I talk to colleagues across the state, and I don't really have one that has as long a record of really deep and abiding partnership with their county government as we have here. It makes a difference to business, it makes a difference to the county, and it will continue in the years ahead. Next up is someone who's a new face to this particular event, the new mayor of the city of Plattsburgh, Chris Rosenquest. Chris is no stranger to the Chamber. We've had the pleasure of working actively with Chris for a number of years during his time in the county legislature, where he served as liaison to the North Country Chamber of Commerce. For the state of the city, Mayor Chris Rosenquest.
Good morning, Gary, and thanks, Mark, for everything that the county has done. I do have to say that the efforts and the coordinated response that the county has provided for just the city and regionally, we probably wouldn't be in as good a shape as we are had it not been for that coordinated effort. So I really do have to acknowledge the legislature and the staff and all the work that you all have done over there. Thank you to the chamber and the sponsors of this event and all y'all that are watching out there. I'm getting texts about people commenting on how good I look. Thank you. I don't look as good as Mark Henry, but I'm trying. Okay, so just bear with me. It's my first year, and I think we could all talk about the impact of COVID. And sure, everybody understands that whatever we do and whatever we're going to accomplish in the next year, 2 years, as Legislator Henry has mentioned, this is not something that we're going to get out of this year and maybe into next year, but it's a process right now. But I do want to say anything that I talk about today, it is in the context of operating in a pandemic, is operating in a COVID environment and being responsible in how we operate in that environment, responsible with our community, the resources that we have, the financial resources that we have, and understanding that all of these play a component in that. And before I start, I do want to give the biggest acknowledgement right now to our city staff, our department heads, the women and men who day to day work in the city and keep our community going. In the last 4 weeks, I will tell you, it's been nothing but a positive reception. It's been partnership, working hand in hand, and nothing but the best. So I did prepare some slides. I don't know if they're up, but I'm going to talk about 3 things today: economic development, infrastructure, and tourism. Economic development is everybody probably watching this has had some hand in or conversation about what economic development looks like regionally. And when I consider what economic development in the city is about, it really is what are the resources that we have and how do we responsibly use those resources to develop our community, to develop our economy. Now, a lot of that also economic development goes into planning. How many plans do you have? What are your plans? And I will proudly say that the city of Plattsburgh has a lot of plans. We have the Harborside master plan. We had the destination master plan that had been developed, and then we had another plan on top of the destination master plan in 2016 that came out for the beach. We have a Dock Street best use study, and we're in the process right now of developing and redesigning our comprehensive master plan. But plans alone do nothing, right? Like, we can have all of the plans in the world. The problem that we're out to solve in the next 3 to 10 years is implementing those plans. They're great plans, right? Like looking at how to develop the beach, looking at how to develop the waterfront, managing those resources in a responsible way that is an investment into our future. So the problem with having plans is that we have a lot of them. But now it's time to turn the page. It's now the time to implement those plans, is to execute those plans, having the wherewithal to make those decisions, ensuring community benefit, ensuring community involvement, and making sure that those plans benefit not only the present, but also the future. Infrastructure, although it is not the most exciting thing, and I put a subtitle up there if y'all read it, the things that people don't care about until they do. Meaning when your water goes, you don't care about it unless you don't have water. You don't care about it unless you don't have electricity. Those are the things that are just in the background of our day-to-day life, that they're really important until you don't, especially when you don't have it. So when we look at our infrastructure, this is an ongoing thing, but also this is the foundation upon which we're going to build that economic development platform. That's going to keep our city running. You know, we're looking at how do we manage our even small things like how do we manage our intersections? How do we make our city more walkable, more bikeable? We were introducing a complete streets legislation this Thursday at our regular meeting, and I feel like that we have enough momentum to do that, and we're years behind, right? So there's some things for us to catch up on in the city that we're doing well at, but we could be doing better at. We have a lot of roads, road building and resurfacing. We have a lot of water infrastructure projects this year, and we're starting to talk about what is the long-term, what's the long-term plan of water security look like for the city, and we'll continue that conversation. But a lot of this work is feeding into not only the economic development piece that I just spoke about, but also what does it look like to just maintain that level of security and maintain that level of operation in the city for our residents, which is critical for us to maintain. When we talk about complete streets, that kind of bridges the gap between both economic development and the next slide, which is quality of life. And when we do that, you know, we have an aging population in the city. We need to make sure that our city is traversable, and that we have the infrastructure to do that. And so we're hoping as a body and as a community and as a city that we can leverage that kind of philosophy to push that forward. When it comes to who we are as a community, I think that's probably one of the most difficult questions that we have to answer, that we're going to have to answer in the next several years, is who are we? Who are we as a community? Are we a community that says, oh, we're landlocked and we don't have developable land? I mean, look, the master plan that I spoke about earlier will help define some of those opportunities for development. You know, I'm pretty confident that we can find opportunities for development that fit our community, that we don't have to look outside of us and say, well, if we were more like them, or if we had land that we can build this or build that, where the resources that we have can start to develop and enhance our quality of life, as well as build on that economic development platform. But when we look at how we make our money, if you will, like Legislator Henry said, you know, a lot of that comes in sales tax. And as we saw, we had a pretty big hit in sales tax with the border closure, which to me and to a lot of us acknowledge that we are a tourist-driven economy. When we don't have our neighbors to the north traveling down, spending their money, shopping at our shops and staying at our hotels, and we see that economic impact. So leveraging that tourism and that tourism mentality not only positions our city and our community as a money making opportunity or a revenue generating opportunity, but also when we start to invest in those resources that attract tourism, that's also an investment into us. That's also an investment into our quality of life, into the things that we love and the reasons why we live here. So rebuilding our beach. It is 100% our intention to reopen our beach, which includes investing in our beach, cleaning it up, fixing it up, and then really taking a look at what is the long-term strategy for that beach. That is, you know, if we talk about being the lake city, we got to put our money where our mouth is. We are what we invest in. And so if we're not investing in the lake, if we're not investing in our waterfront, then let's actually find something that we can invest in, that we can identify ourselves with. But right now, I think for the most part, everybody seems to agree that as the lake city, we have a beach. Let's start to invest in it. Let's start to enhance that waterfront. And mind you, the waterfront is not just a city beach. We have a river. Let's enhance the access to our river. Let's enhance the purpose of that river. Again, sustainable and responsible, but let's look at how do we leverage these resources to attract people here and to enhance our own quality of life. We have a rich history, and as Supervisor Cashman has beat the drum of the Veterans Memorial just to the north of to the south of the city, that there's an audience to capture there. People come here because we do have that rich history. And as we've seen over the last several years, we have an increased interest in the arts. A number of murals have gone up, a number of public art events have come up, and we want to continue to build and enhance that. So with that, that's my state of the city at this point, and I look forward to having all of your questions answered. And also Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm not on TikTok, but Mike Cashman is, and you can see him doing those dances. There you go. There it is. All right. Thank you, folks. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Chris, and all of us here at the Chamber look forward to continuing to work with you on all of those things and other emerging opportunities over the next few years. Our third presentation is the state of the town of Plattsburgh. I'm happy to have with us one of the greatest cheerleaders we have out there for the business community and for the North Country Chamber, Town Supervisor Michael Cashman. Mike?
Thank you, Gary. I'm just getting set up. When we share our own screen, it just takes a moment here. So I'm just getting it positioned. So if everybody can just bear with me for a moment. Good morning. I am the cleanup crew and have been for the last couple of years. So I'm going to try to be somewhat sensitive, not to necessarily touch upon the same things in the same way. The town of Plattsburgh, by this image here, tells not only a story of the town, but it tells a story of our region. The Plattsburgh International Airport is within our boundaries, but certainly serves the greater region. The beautiful Adirondack Mountains and Lake Champlain, the interstate. It also is the heart of our commerce section. With that said, the town continues to be globally relevant and regionally exceptional in efforts to create a vibrant and healthy community, ecologically, socially, and economically. As such, the town of Plattsburgh is committed to continuing its legacy of responsible and effective community planning. With our Elevate Plattsburgh Smart Growth Plan, we continue to optimize historic investments and continue to lead the region for a strong future for all. And I have to say right from the get-go, because I want you to kind of think of this image as a bird's eye view to the very last slide that I'll present to you, and that's we are truly in a partnership with others. So COVID-19 struck us all in so many different ways. And no doubt, we have been experiencing an unprecedented time in both disrupting our daily routines and challenging our way of living. The darkness of these times have still left me very heartened by the top-notch Town of Plattsburgh team. From our volunteer board members comprised of the Planning Board, ZBA, Finance Board, a new Recreation Committee, Assessing, our Water Advisory Group, and to the employees, the frontline workers, to my fellow elected officials. Everybody has rolled up their sleeves to find the bright spots, to seek the rainbows, and to find the light on the other side. And even though that those challenges have been presented to us, we have found a new way of doing this, whether it be through Zoom. We understood the importance of continued governance. Over the many months, we have learned and relearned and adopted new methods, be it by putting up plexiglass here in Town Hall or social markers on the floor, We even created a walk-up window for a period of time for the town before the snow hits. But I go back to some of the best advice my grandfather ever gave me, and that was, he often said that the only thing that is constant in life is change itself. So I say to you that we must own these challenges so that we can own the direction of where we want to seek our change. You know, we have a legacy. I apologize, it just rose up here. We have a legacy of planning that is well over 60 years. The kind of mantra behind planning is that you can always recalibrate a plan. And that's what we're doing, is we're finding small ways to recalibrate. We're going back to our master plan. We're looking at how it intersects with our town smart growth plan, our economic development plan, our recreation plan. These are not things that just sit on the shelf. These are things that we activate every single day. And one example is meeting the needs of the moment. It is just the fact that the restaurants have been devastated by COVID-19 in so many different ways. And while the weather was nice, we became one of the first municipalities throughout New York State to activate a plan to assist restaurants to utilize things like their parking lot for outdoor dining or their green space. Then this was just a quick mock-up that we had done with one of our businesses. And we continue to be prepared to use creativity to address the challenges and meet the moment. The town of Plattsburgh is also staying the course with health and safety in mind, sustainability and economic development in our infrastructure. This is a bird's eye view, something that probably none of you have ever seen. This is our water tank farm. We have officially onboarded the 2 million gallon water storage tank. So we have multiple gallons of water. We continue to be a strong regional water supplier for not only ourselves, but parts of Schuyler Falls and Beekmantown. Our water capital plan, even through COVID-19, we've made sure to continue to punch forward. Also, this year, we received our first bond rating in nearly 2 decades. We were rated by Moody's Investor Services, and we were graded at a AA3. This is a very strong rating. In fact, their paperwork indicated that we probably would have been a AA2 if it wasn't for COVID-19, but we continue to focus on responsible methodology to protect our taxpayers, but also to invest in our infrastructure that we know is a priority. So again, you can see here, we mobilized. We have 2 rather large projects that were initiated this year. One was the base project. We have a lot of old infrastructure from the old federal base that needs attention. And there was another project that we began to address off of the Quarry Road. This is something, and I've said this before, but it's worth noting again, I'm absolutely elated about the Northwards project. You know, this project enhances and supports the Town of Plattsburgh Smart Growth Plan, and it's focused on increasing the density to make the town center more pedestrian friendly, and it's ideally situated as a live, work, play environment that abuts access of employment, healthcare, retail, and recreation. So this new facility will be behind Lenny Shoe and Apparel. It's a great project. There's already been lots of information about this, but this particular project, as I said just last year when I went in more depth of our smart growth plan, is we need more housing that is in the missing middle. And as you can see, it does that. This project is designed also to enhance the traffic patterns in the town center by connecting the Tom Miller with Plaza Boulevard by way of Lenny Shoe and Apparel. And most of all, it is a strong demonstration of how planning for your community's needs in advance and implementing the appropriating zoning results in development projects that a community desires. Now, I will make one quick note just because we're talking about roads. The traffic light that we made the announcement last year on Ruger and Ampersand, unfortunately, due to COVID, we did have to shelve that project for now, but don't worry, we will get back to it as quickly as possible, and we continue to keep that in the priority pipeline. Growth. We continue to be open for business. You know, the town saw over 275,000 square feet of new building, even during a global pandemic. Over 491 building permits for commercial and residential, and this year over $25 million in value in the local economy. And, you know, that was in both, again, commercial and residential. We're very excited that because of our ability to recalibrate and keep our boards like the zoning board and the planning board and everyone else moving forward, we were able to keep critical projects moving forward day by day, week by week, month by month. And this just gives you a little bit of a sense from occupying commercial alterations, commercial additions, commercial remodel, and commercial new. We continue to be open for business. Now, I'm really excited about a number of things that are going on within our region. And sometimes things happen when you make a presentation. And last year during the State of the Town, I made a presentation about our smart growth. And some members of the Clinton County Board of Realtors reached out and said, hey, we'd like to learn more about smart growth. So this project is born out of a new and growing partnership with some folks, Andrew Castine, who was the 2020 board president, Emma Coughlin, associate executive of the Clinton County Board of Realtors, and town officials. The town and the CCBR will soon host webinars for local developers and stakeholders about the smart growth plan in zoning. It's critical that we get people up to speed on what's going on so that we can activate things as quickly and steadily as possible. And this all came from some early developments of the work that the town was doing back in 2019. So you can see the evolution of plans. This partnership is also created as a public-private partnership because we also received some grant funding that is going to extend our smart growth plans that focus in on the over 500 acres of vacant property at the old county airport. So again, we will work with them, and of course, we will work with our partners in the Clinton County Ledge. You know, Chris truly hit the nail on the head on talking about things that you invest in define a community, but it also defines a region. It also defines how we are interconnected. A couple of years ago, the town of Plattsburgh launched the first spur off of the STRG, and it was Lapeer Lane Riverway. And I know many of you have taken advantage of it. It's a great space. But last year, towards the end of the year, the town saw over nearly 2 miles of trail system developed and rehabilitated. The Treadwell's Mill Connector Trail runs from the Anglers Park lot located at the north side of Route 22 South between the International Airport and the State Police Barracks. The trail extends west along the Saranac River under I-87 through the lands of the Angle Green Energy and ending in Treadwell's Mills at the Hydro Project Reservoir at the Military Turnpike. This extends our connectivity with the city overall along this wonderful trail. Thanks to Clinton County Tobacco Settlement Funds and the Healthy Neighborhoods Program, we will be excited to be officially launching this new space for our community in 2021. So stand by. You know, our region's best resource is its people who live, work, and learn right here in the North Country. Families, friends, and neighbors have a tradition of coming together, and demonstrated by the ice storm and Hurricane Irene, and the list goes on and on. COVID-19 has been a new challenge, but our values have remained unshakable. They have had us looking out for one another and the greater good. So let's give thanks to those who have been and continue to be on the front lines, ensuring that the sick are tended to, the hungry are fed, students are still learning, and others playing their part to hold our community together. I would like to give special thanks to the North Country Chamber of Commerce for all of their efforts, from the Daily Dose newsletter to joining local leaders and advocating for businesses, whether it be from reopening or resources to make sure that they are safe. When this pandemic is over, I am confident that the North Country will rally. We will rebuild. Now, I'm not speaking with rose-colored glasses. Challenges lie ahead, but we have proven before that we will overcome them, and we will do so together. Now, a little bit of a fun to end on a high note. Again, I want to congratulate Chris. Many people don't realize this, but our first event together, once Chris was elected, was a Chamber of Commerce event. I think it was really meaningful. But between Mark, Chris, and I, this is a demonstration that no matter the challenges, we're all ready to leap in them together. Be safe, be well. I look forward to our future partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Let's take time for a few questions. We actually had a number of questions submitted as people registered for this event, but happily, because our three leaders do such a great job in their annual presentations, 90% of those questions have been addressed in their presentations, in their remarks. So, but I am going to look through here, and I'm going to find a few that ask on a little different note, something that we can address. Here's one for all three. How will the county, city, and town continue to attract a diverse selection of new professionals and families to the North Country? Who'd like to start? Mark?
Gary, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Could you repeat it?
Yes. How will the county, city, and town continue to attract a diverse selection of new professionals and families to the North Country? My audio working?
Well, was that for me? I can go first.
Yeah, if you could get us started, that'd be great.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. I think a lot of that, Gary, to answer that question, is wrapped up in the initiatives that we all have spoken about with the area, the environment, education, housing development and opportunities, economic opportunities. I think the airport folks are looking for places to come that have housing, that have infrastructure, that you can get on an airplane and fly to wherever you want to go. Broadband and cell phone services are very, very important. And we look for different ways to ensure that this area is attractive to folks to come here.
Mayor, you want to take a shot at that?
All right, yeah, I'll jump in. So, you know, when I do think about diversity, and I might have a different shade of glasses on when I consider diversity in our community. We have, in the city of Plattsburgh, we have probably one of the most diverse population of people when it comes to racial diversity in SUNY, right? We have, like, our SUNY campus has people coming in from all over the world, all over the country, all over the state. And one thing that we do well, which we could always do better with things, but one thing that we do well is welcome people to our community. I think that if we position ourselves in the city of Plattsburgh a little bit more, I don't want to say more welcoming, but more along the lines of including and being inclusive to the campus community, and understanding what the campus community looks for in terms of that long-term, like a more long-term stay. You know, Michael Cashman, for example, is a perfect example of somebody who moved here for college and stayed, you know, and there's a lot of people like that. So I think it's up to us as a community, as the city of Plattsburgh, to certainly understand what that desire is to stay in a community like ours and to create that environment. again, quality of life is a big piece for us. We're an outdoors community. We like to be outdoors. We like to be at the lake. We like to be in the mountains. And so really enhancing that and enhancing access to that is certainly crucial for us to increase that level of diversity.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael?
I'll echo the sentiments of my colleagues, but I'll take it one step further to say, you know, for us in the town of Plattsburgh, and something that I've been really trying to advocate for is more affordable housing, for example. You need to have a broad spectrum when you're meeting the needs of a community, and fight against the concept of not in my backyard. We need to have a diverse community, a diverse economy. And then the last thing that I would throw out there is, I don't think any one of us on this program today would deny an invitation to participate in a conversation to move our communities and our region forward. So please send us invitations if you have ideas.
Thank you. Let's try one more question that I think all three of you can speak to. There's a question here that's raising the new state drive-through vaccination center at the airport property. And certainly the county and everybody involved deserves kudos for getting that up and running so quickly and running it so efficiently. And the governor has cleared the way for 70-year-old chamber execs to get vaccinated. And so I'll tell you, I managed to get an appointment. I've been through the center, and they do an incredible job. I've never seen anything so organized as that center is. But that having been said, we all know and have acknowledged that accelerating and carrying out the vaccination process in our country is absolutely pivotal to everything else, economically, socially, health-wise, for us to move forward at some point this year. Do each of you want to take a minute to address how you think things are going in terms of the vaccination process here in the North Country today? And if there are things you'd like to see or things that could be done better or things that we need. Let's go in reverse order. Let's start with Michael.
Thanks, Gary. First of all, I'm very thankful that Governor Cuomo selected, you know, the site in the town of Plattsburgh on the county property to bring a statewide run site here. I mean, we should be very thankful. I know many people are traveling long ways to get vaccinated. So it is it's just a fact that the resources of getting enough vaccine come largely through the federal government, and that goes through a trickle down into the system. I will tell you a story in response that I have a grandmother in Massachusetts who's 95, living in a senior facility. She just got her first dose recently, and her wise advice was, we just have to endure a little bit longer. Now, this is a woman that has not been able to see friends and family for months, and I'm with her. It's frustrating. It's a hardship. We have rallied under Mark's leadership with the county, having a regional response here by encouraging safe and good reopening with partnerships of the county and our local municipalities. I'm very hopeful, though, that will be coupled with a response to get the Canadian border opening as safely and as quickly too. That's probably the biggest need that I see beyond just getting people vaccinated here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Mayor?
Yeah, I would say the bottleneck as Supervisor Cashman, and as we all have seen, has been access to the vaccination through the federal government, which is improving, and we've seen some of that process improving. But I will have to say that, you know, I spent a couple of hours at the site with Supervisor Cashman not too long ago before they opened up, and I couldn't have been more impressed. The organization of it, the communication of the process and how it was opening, the availability of the organizers to answer questions and to just, you know, to address any concerns. It's just been very impressive. The time that it took to start the organizing locally, and then through the first person driving in the door, you know, you can't ask for anything better. The thing that I would impress upon our community is get vaccinated. There's a website you can go to. You can check if you're eligible. Most people At this point, I know that restaurant workers are now part of that eligibility list, and they can go to that website to schedule an appointment. But I would say that if you know somebody who you think is eligible, get them onto the website. If you think you're eligible, get onto the website, get an appointment, and that's really what's going to help. Help not only just flatten and reduce that curve, but also get our population back to some type of normalcy.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark?
Thank you. Yes, and Chris, thank you for bringing that up. I was going to mention the website as well, so thank you for highlighting that. That is very important. I can tell you that I've been out to the site, various places, several times. I have received a great input on how well it's running out, particularly at the state site. It is going smoothly. Thank you for that. The county is very involved out there. It is a New York State site, but it's at the airport in our facility, and we are supporting that many ways. As you know, I hope you know that we are not sitting on any vaccine for this county. If we get it, it goes out. There's several ways that happens. We have the hospitals that act as a hub. They're basically doing healthcare. We spoke about the state site at the airport. They're doing about 500 a day now. We are hopeful. We believe that by about February 8th, we will ramp up to about 1,000 a day. Our local health department has a targeted population that they are working with. We have a federal program that is taking care of the nursing homes, and we have our state and local healthcare providers that are working as well. There was a call for patience. I would recognize that as well. As soon as the vaccine gets here, we're setting it up. We believe the system we have in place is working well. We recognize that there is a shortage of vaccine. There is a large population of folks to do. So patience is the key. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And at this point, on behalf of the North Country Chamber, our thanks to all three leaders for once again doing this valuable program with us. Our thanks to NBT Bank and Barton and LaJudas for their generous sponsorship for this event. Let me note a few upcoming webinars. If you haven't taken note of them, they may very well be of interest, very relevant to what we were just discussing. We are doing our second and what will be a series of webinars with the experts on the vaccination process, addressing questions that have been posed in the community about the vaccines, the new vaccines that are still yet to come on the market, the process that's been touched upon here, how that's going. It'll be relevant to the entire region in the North Country. That is taking place tomorrow morning at 9:30. Registration is free. You do need to register so that you'll get the link to be able to listen in. So go to northcountrychamber.com and you'll find that link. And please take part in that to learn more about all of that tomorrow morning. On Friday at 4 p.m., February 5th, I'll be having a conversation with our friend, U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, which will touch on some of the subjects we've touched on here today, as well as some others. And then looking at it a little further, on Friday, February 26th at 7:30 a.m., we will be conducting virtually our annual New York State Legislative Forum with Senator Steck and Assembly Members Simpson and Jones. So registration is open for that as well. So take advantage of those programs. And thank you for joining us this morning.